Hi everyone, I'd like to show you how I made this. This was for last week prompt in Nina's Facebook group, and it was mandalas, and most we're doing the dot thing mandala, but I don't have the patience for it, so I went with mandala made out of pieces of paper. Now I've got some kind of video about it from like 3 years ago, and it was awful. but it also gives you some pointers of what I'm doing. So I'll leave a link below, but keep in mind it was 3 years ago. I didn't really have a smartphone. I didn't have where to put my phone to record the video. It was like a bunch of shoe boxes standing next to me here, and then I put the phone with some kind of a sponge to make an angle, and it was horrible. But if it wasn't frustrating, then it was hilarious. But okay, moving on. So for this piece I've used several kind of papers. I've used mulberry paper, paper napkins, and tissue paper, and basically I will use whatever I have. I didn't go and buy it especially for that. If I find mulberry paper in my chip shop, I will buy it. If I don't have it, I always have napkins. If I don't have napkins, I have rice paper. And what did I want to tell you about rice paper? Rice paper, the really simple kind, comes like this, some kind of off-white, and it has a little bit of transparency. So if I don't have mulberry paper or something interesting like mulberry paper, I will just stain the rice paper with watercolors or sprays. You can see here where I've done it to achieve some kind of green. So you can play with something like that if you don't have mulberry paper. And these are some examples of the mulberry paper I found, and this is the three that I've used here, and I've used another one that came in this kind of package, but I don't think I have another of the same color. It was this one that's here. It doesn't really matter, just play with what you have. So moving this aside, I'm taking another I made it on a canvas. This is a 30 by 30 centimeters. Of course, you can do it on whatever surface you want. You can do it in your art journal. You can do it on whatever you have in hand. So here is my canvas. First of all, I will find the center. 30 by 30 centimeters is at approximately 12 inch. So something like that. I will find the middle, as I said. So there will be some kind of guidelines for my mandala. I want to also mark the center point. It's not really critical to me. It's just a guideline that I work with. Of course, when you're marking your center point and finding the center of the canvas, bear in mind that if you're using something that has a lot of transparency, then the marking will show. So pay attention to it. So I'm going to use, I don't want to use the same colors again. I'm going for blues and greens this time. So I'm going to open this set of mulberry paper, but I don't think I'm going to use the darker blue here. I think it's not, it will be too pronounced, and I don't think it has a lot of transparency, so I'm going to put it aside. I've picked several paper napkins that can be used in what I'm going to do. These are the colors I'm picking. When you do this kind of project, I don't care what's on the paper napkin. It doesn't matter that I have apples here. I'm looking at a general color of the napkin. I have a lot of green here. The red and the light brown here is just an extra bonus for interest in your project. Again, this one, it doesn't matter if you have flowers like here or here. These are just bonus to your project because it will go in the pattern and it will be more interesting. So these are the napkins I had in mind, and these are the mulberry papers. I will look if I have anything more to add from my stash that will be interesting. Maybe this light blue. Wait for it. I'm talking and talking and not doing. Okay. Moving everything aside, I will start separating my napkins from the two plies they have, and because you only work with the printed layer, I usually go to where the crease is. It's easier to separate there. Here we go. I'm saving the two white plies for other projects. I have video about it. You can check in my channel to look for it, what you can do with this. So as I said, I'm going to separate the other napkins and then I'll come back. I'm back. So there is some kind of planning that goes into this, but basically I will go with the flow. I will start with something, and as I go I will see what I want to add or subtract from this. The only thing that I do know is that this is the darker of all the papers I've picked for this project, so it will need to be under everything else. I don't want it to cover things with details and to obscure things that will be an interest in pattern on top. So it's easier to fold your paper at least twice, like this. And I want my pieces to look like petals or leaves. And I'm just taking scissors, and here we go. Already got two. And again I will take the folded paper that just moved on me like this. I hope you can see it. And here we go. Now if it's hard for you to just cut it without planning, just draw on your paper the shape that you want to cut. So this is the basic shape that I want, and I'm moving this aside for now. Again, I will take this mulberry paper. I'm using the mulberry paper as my base, because it's a solid color. It doesn't have a design on it, and the paper napkins will come on top and add to the design. Again, I'm going to cut this leaf shape. And here we go. This is going to be the base for the whole project, like this. Now, before I'm going to glue these pieces, I want something in my corners like I did in my other project. I will show you again. You don't have to. I just like to put pieces on my corners. It's like frames everything in. So I'm moving this aside, and I'm going to use the paper napkin with the apples, and I'm just going to use this corner for each one of my corners. Again, this is folded, so I have 4 pieces here, and I don't want to, maybe I'll just, again, I'm eyeballing it and just cutting a corner like this. I've got here white glue. It's diluted like something like 2/3 glue, white glue, 1/3 water. I don't measure, I just know the consistency that I like to work with. I'm also putting glue on the sides of my canvas because I like everything to be covered, and putting the corner here so I will have access to fold over the edge of the canvas. Work with the soft brush so you don't tear your napkin, and when you put glue on the napkin, use the flat of the brush to put glue on so it will slide and won't tear your napkin. Here we go, I have one corner made. Now a nice trick to work on these mandalas is to find some kind of circular container that you can put under your canvas. I will show you. Let's see. Here we go. Like, I've got this container of gesso. I will put it like this, and now I can move around without the glue that's on the sides and underneath will touch my desk, and again it won't harm the napkins that I'm gluing on the side of my canvas. So here we go. Again, I'm leaving enough to cover the edges. I hope you can see that I'm using the flat of the brush. I don't fight wrinkles, I like wrinkles. So now, as you can see, everything is covered, and I'm even going underneath and making sure that everything is tucked in. So here we go, another corner, and I'm going to glue the 2 other corners, and I'll come back. I'm back. So I've got the four corners and I started to glue down my base for the whole mandala with the petals that I've cut from the mulberry paper. And as you can see, I'm using the guidelines that I've marked on the canvas. Like this. Now, if it's easier for you, of course you could have marked also the diagonal lines, but I didn't, I haven't done it, and I'll just go ahead and place the next petals as I see fit. Here we go. That's the good thing when you have the circular container underneath. Everything is wet, but you don't touch anything, and you can't spoil whatever is still wet. Because when I need to move the piece, I'm just moving it from under the canvas. Go. Okay. So now I'm going to take my napkins and I'm going to cut again several sizes of the petal or leaves shape, so I can start to build around this base. And I'll show you on this napkin. I will move it aside because it's wet and I want you to see what I'm doing. So I've got this napkin and I will start. If I want symmetrical petals, I will use the crease here to cut symmetrical shapes like this. Here's another one. So now I have symmetrical shapes to work with. If I don't care, which is most of the time, I don't care if it's symmetrical or not, I'll just start cutting the leaf shape out of my folded napkin in various sizes. Like this. And now I can play with it all over my canvas. Again, if it's hard for you to do it like this, just make a template and cut your shapes, because it's a little bit hard to draw on a paper napkin. Moving this aside. So I'm going to cut these shapes from my other paper napkins, and then I'll come back. I'm back. So I've got my napkins cut to pieces, and I've got here another mulberry paper that I've cut, again the same shapes. So I'm going to start gluing down my pieces and playing around. There is nothing planned. This is, for me, it's like Zen. I don't need to think about it. I just need to play with the paper and with the colors. There we go. And I hope you can see this is on for now it's only the mulberry paper, and as you can see there is a little bit of transparency that adds to this old mandala. I'll put down glue so we can move along. I'm going to in a minute to skip ahead because seeing me glue each and every piece is going to be really boring. There we go. Oops. Sometimes you just can't fight the glue. Go. I need 2 more of this light blue. Okay. Here and here. Already it's starting to look interesting. Now it's the most fun part for me, the paper napkins, because you can never know what will be on each piece. This is what I really like about it. Here we go. It's sticking to my fingers. One by one. Wanted to speed it up, but I can't. It needs to be one by one. I'm not trying to see if it's symmetrical. I'm just gluing it down where I think it needs to be. Like this. Yeah, the canvas is always moving because it's on the base, the circle base I've put down, but you work with what you have. Okay, so I'm going to move along with this and I'll come back. I'm back and I hope you can see that I'm still adding petals from other napkins to the mandala like this. I keep working around. And don't forget to put glue also on top of every piece you're putting in, like this. So as you can see, I'm just adding more and I'm overlapping because it's more interesting this way. Doing the sides and tucking everything in. It keeps sticking to my fingers. Of course, you can do this kind of mandala with any other decorative paper that you have. It doesn't have to have transparency. Just build the layers of your petals. So you can use whatever you want. I like doing it like this because of the little bit of transparency. Now I'm going to work around more, but I want to show you this the next layer that I'm making. Now I'm going to come again with more of the petals, and I'm going to work on the inside because I don't want all this piece to be like this. I'm adding more interest, more petals. Here we go. And you can if you see that you want to add another shape, you can cut circles and add to your mandala. You can do whatever you want. I'm just using this transparency and the varied sizes and shapes of the leaves to add interest to my mandala. Here we go. And now I've got these two dark blue pieces that I also want to add interest to them. So I'm going to take, maybe I will even take from this mulberry paper, the light blue one, and I will add here. Like this. Of course, everything needs to dry down so you can see the total effect, because right now you see more white from the glue than any other thing. So I'm going to cut more petals from the light blue mulberry paper. I'm going to glue them, and I'm going to come back when everything is relatively dry so you can see what we are doing. So I'll be back. I'm back. Everything is still wet, but I want to show you how I'm finishing how I finish this piece. I'm going to take the paper napkin I used for my corners, and I'm going to again cut small petals shapes out of it, because it's darker than the other stuff I've used on the canvas. And I'm going to go all around my canvas and glue these little pieces down where I still have white, like this, and now it will just frame the whole thing. It doesn't have to be really dark to frame it. It just needs to be consistent, so like this. So I'm going to go all around. I'm going to glue this down, and when it's dry, I'll come back. Hi, I'm back and it's mostly dry. I hope you can see the details of all the layers of napkins. So this is it. That's how you do it. You can be creative with whatever papers you have and just work the layers and the transparency between the papers if you are using this kind of papers, and just to be sure that everything is locked down. I usually put a layer of water-based varnish, just so I will know that everything is protected, because it is paper. So this is it for now, and Susan, I hope you liked it, and just go and make paper mandalas and send me pictures. And everyone, if you want to send me pictures of what you've done, just find me on Facebook, and I would love to see your work. So bye for now.